welcome to In Defense of the Hays Code, where we promise to not take up as much of your time as we did last time. Um, and that is a promise I can hold to. And also, as first stated, well, first off, my name is Ellis Womack. I'm getting ahead of myself. This is my co host, Zach Anderson. Um, Spoilers are back on for the movies. You don't have to worry about us telling you the whole film this time. And in fact, due to certain bits of this movie, the nature of certain bits of this movie, I will be doing my very, very, very best to keep all of you as in the dark about this film as I can. I am actually issuing it as a challenge to myself, as how little I can talk about this film while talking about it a lot. Um, I motor mouth. um, but with that being said, the movie this week is Bringing Up Baby with Cary Grant and Katharine Hepburn.
Cary Grant and Katharine Hepburn. If
Mhm.
you know about old movies at all, you recognize those names. Even if you don't, you probably recognize those names. Um, but this was kind of a different role for I don't know Cary Grant. In one of the movies, uh, Arsenic and Lace
Arsenic and Old Lace, yes.
and Old Lace.
Mhm.
He played the comedy big in that. But yeah, this is a comedy of the highest degree,
Mm-hmm.
and so my takeaway, um, fast paced, puns galore.
Mm-hmm.
You really have to be locked in to not only follow the storyline, which that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's humorously chaotic, but also to catch the jokes. And for me, jokes are great. Not all comedies have like just straight up jokes, but this one is full of them, and I love it. There's there was one that they said that oh, it was this. I'd love to stay, but I'd love to leave more.
I, I always appreciated the. It's not that I don't like you, Susan, because in moments of quiet, I am strangely drawn to you. However, there haven't been any quiet moments.
Right.
That one just
Yeah,
stuck with
that's
me.
so clever. So in moments of quiet, I'm drawn to you, but there have been none. So how much is he drawn to
Mhm. There's a, I can see this movie being read as like being watched as this poor man who's being dragged around by this insane woman. But I propose to you, I'm not saying that's wrong. I propose to you an alternate viewing of the movie.
Interesting. Let's
This
hear it.
this woman who's trying her darndest to make things work out for this man, to like weave things where everything works out well for him, but he's just too slow on the uptake.
Too slow on the uptake.
Like a lot of the times, again, no spoilers, when she's like weaving all of these elaborate stories, and he's just like, "I've never been to Africa," and I can feel her pain going, "No, stupid, play along."
Okay. Yes. Yes. I get what you mean now. At the beginning of the movie, I thought she was just the dumbest. And without spoilers, uh there's a golf course scene, and I'm like, wow, this character has no brain and does not know where she is or if there's anyone around her.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, oh, that must be where the title comes from, because she has the brain of an infant
Mhm.
bringing up baby, and that's her. And so we've got to figure out a way to get her in the real world. That's what I thought that it was. Um, but she is hilarious in it.
Mhm.
I did not know how Katharine Hepburn would do in a comedy.
No.
My 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 thoughts and standards were low
Mhm.
to begin with. Yeah, she she did well. She did well. She held her own very much so. And there's a lot of like I said, quick one-liners, puns,
Mhm.
back and forth, stuff like that. That yeah, it made it very enjoyable.
Um, so I had a very interesting introduction and sort of early relationship with this movie.
Okay, let's
So,
hear it.
I don't know if I've mentioned this in the podcast before. When I was in college, I minored in film studies. And
Hmm.
so occasionally we'd watch whole movies, or if we couldn't, we'd watch different scenes of movies to talk about like different eras or different camera work or different whatever. And so my introduction to this scene, to this movie, was the very last scene of the movie.
Okay.
Like the very last moment. I think we watched from when she comes in to when the credits start rolling, or
I
the
see.
imagery fades to black.
So she has found something.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So that was my first introduction, and I was like, okay, this is funny. And so for one of the assignments, what we had to do, it's called a shot list.
Okay.
So you have to take like one scene of a movie, in this case, one scene of a movie that we had covered in class to some capacity, and we had to break down a scene from that movie shot for shot for shot. Like
Mm.
anytime the camera work changed, we had to make a note of it. We had to describe what dialogue was in the scene, what music was in the background, what how the camera changed, what the characters did.
Sounds exhausting.
There was a reason why the teacher would always tell us no psycho shower scenes.
Yeah,
That was the
right.
one rule.
A million shots.
And yeah, I feel like that was a mercy ruling. Um, but and I don't know if I had looked up the movie Blind. I think she had mentioned this other scene that was funny. The dress scene. That's all I'll say about it. The dress.
Yep. Yep.
And so I ended up watching that because I had to do the shot list on it at like maybe 9 p.m. on a Monday night
Okay.
in my dorm at college, in my dorm room.
Yeah.
I know I annoyed the hound out of my neighbors because
How so?
I had to watch that scene 30 or 40 times in order to make sure I got all the shots perfect.
Yeah.
I never stopped laughing.
Yeah, right.
I
Yeah.
never stopped laughing. I have a rule, ladies and gentlemen. Again, I don't think I've stated this. I don't like watching comedy films too much, or the same comedy film over and over. Because my opinion, comedy is only funny so long, most of the time, so long as you can't quote it. The minute you start anticipating the jokes, a lot of the times those jokes lose their punch. Um,
Okay.
I've done copious amounts of research into this, um, watching comedy films and going, "Oh, it's not as funny as it used to be." Bring Up Baby is not one of those films.
Mm.
Like I said, I watched that scene 30 or 40 times. It is one of my favorite scenes in all of old cinema because it's just so funny.
You're talking about the dress scene.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay.
I would just from when he confronts her on the stairs to when they are exiting the room together.
Uh-huh.
It is without a doubt, to me, one of the funniest scenes in a
That's
movie full
great.
of them. So, and that being so, to finish up my story, because I was midway through. So, those two scenes were the only two scenes out of that movie I had seen for maybe 6 months before I actually managed to catch it on TV and record it and then watch the whole thing.
Okay. You had seen the dress scene
Mhm.
and the ending.
Yes,
And so out of context.
out of context. Hmm.
Which proved both of those scenes are funny.
Hmm.
But then you got to see it in its entirety,
Mhm.
which just yesterday was the first time that I saw it in its entirety.
Mhm.
I definitely, yeah, both of those scenes are funny. There are, uh, I'll say, the scene where, that the scenery is of a jail. There, that to me is probably my favorite scene in the movie. It's rather extended, but it is wilding out,
Hmm.
trying to keep up with what's going on, and watching other people try to keep up what's going on within the film. Yeah, yeah, I like that. Uh, uh, it was well. Um, so I was raised with the Three Stooges and the Marx Brothers,
You're here.
and so uh, this movie had a combination of like if y'all have ever seen Groucho's like just quick humor, and then of course the Stooges and their slapstick and jokes.
Mhm.
They have a lot of that.
There
in this
was
film.
thinking about it. Sorry, a considerable amount of slapstick in this movie. I've just now thought of that. Like as you said that, my brain's like replaying scenes. It's like
Yeah,
there's quite a lot of slapstick.
yeah. It doesn't feel like a slapstick movie,
No, it doesn't.
but there was a few stunts
Hmm.
that I was like, oh, they had to get a stunt person, and then like they did not cut the shot, and they turned over, and it was the actors,
Hmm.
and I was like, man, that was quite a scene for those big time actors to do that.
Because like another funny scene, and again, trying to avoid some spoilers, the throwing rocks against the window scene.
Right,
It's hilarious.
right, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, that's a moment where you think that Katharine Hepburn's character is just completely insane. Like she's where is her gray matter?
Hmm.
It's she is just so uh all over the place with ideas. The whole movie just ideas, and as soon as she thinks of an idea, she implements it
Hmm.
immediately. And it's like, well, no need to plan anything out.
And like I said, it's interesting because you can view the film as, oh, this poor man having to deal with this insane woman, or
Right.
like I said, there's this other viewing of this woman who is coming up with plans and just implementing them as fast as she can to try to help him, but
Yeah.
this guy is just too slow on the uptake, too slow on the draw to follow.
Yeah. I see what you're saying, and I think there's some of both.
Mhm.
I think it's a mixture. Because she'll literally have these plans that would work
Hmm.
if he could catch on quick enough.
Hmm.
So yeah, she's crazy, but also because of his kind of upbringing
Hmm.
and the prestige of his job, he's like very intellectual,
Hmm.
and so he thinks of things like one of the first things of the movie is someone comes in there like shh, he's thinking. And that to me sets the tone for the movie is that he is a thinker
Hmm.
and she is a instigator.
Hmm.
And so but he contemplates things for so long that, like you said, he can't go on the fly like she does.
Hmm.
And they tell you that right off the bat. That yes, he's a thinker, but not like you can't make noise around him or he can't think good.
Hmm.
Well, she is noise. Like she's the definition of noise.
There's a line, and I am going to have to take part of this line out because it is heavy spoilers. But
Okay.
there's an exchange later in the film that I think perfectly exemplifies that. So you see them driving away, covered in feathers,
Mm-hmm.
and she looks at him. Well, if you had just run when I told you.
Right.
Oh, no, I think the scene was, I can't believe whoever asked us to, you made us pay for those swans. It's like, well, if you had just run, like I told you, Susan, when a man is wrestling a spoiler in the middle of a pond, he's in no state to run.
Yeah. Right.
And,
And she's just like, you should have just done this. And he's like,
and I think part of the brilliance of the performance comes down to just the accents they use, just
okay.
their voices. Because I mean, there's no escaping the fact that Katharine Hepburn is New England born and bred. I
Right.
mean, she is Connecticut,
Yeah,
and that
absolutely.
comes through a lot in the accent. But at the same time, her voice is very flighty. It's very just all over the place. While a lot of the lines he delivers are staid and just,
Very deliberate.
mm-hmm,
Yeah, that's a good point, man.
mm-hmm,
The tone, yeah, including their accents.
mm-hmm,
I hadn't thought about that, but I see that 100%. And I'm not just agreeing with you. Like I said, I watched it yesterday, and uh, that's another good contrast
mm-hmm.
because that a lot of this movie is just contrasting them back and forth, back and forth.
Yeah.
Um, even their accents. Yeah, that's good, man.
And
That's good observation.
one interesting thing that I've read somewhere, so I can only say I assume this is true.
Yeah.
Uh, this movie came out in 38.
Okay.
Yes, came out in 38. I had to do mental math in my brain. Um, Superman came out in 39. I know this sounds completely random, but I know contrasting those sounds random. But
Yeah.
I have read somewhere that the men who first came up with Superman based the appearance of Clark Kent off of Cary Grant's
Okay.
look in this movie with glasses and everything.
No, I definitely see that. He dresses as Clark Kent. He looks like Clark Kent.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's not that he dressed like Clark Kent. Maybe Clark Kent was drawn. I see what you're saying.
Yep.
Yeah, to look like Cary Grant in this movie. That's interesting. That is interesting. Yeah. So when you were saying when Superman came out, I was trying to figure out what old serial was there
Mm-hmm.
of Superman. But yeah, you meant like the original
Yeah,
comics.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
That's wild.
Now, I've had a question that I've been looking forward to asking you once we film this episode, because I know
Okay,
you're going to hate me for it, and I
excellent.
live for things like that. You have now seen The Thin Man,
Yeah,
Bringing Up Baby,
yeah.
and um, It Happened One Night. Now, there is one more film that I should technically have shown you before asking this question, but I'll ask that question when we watch.
Yeah, when we get there.
Which of the three did you like best? Which of the three did you think had the best humor, the best chemistry between the lead
Which
actor and
of the
actress?
three?
Which of the three? I will
Okay.
let you stew in your rage and hatred and think about it for a second.
Right, right. Well, I need to know which aspect you're asking about being the best, like the
We'll say
funniest.
we'll say funniest and then best chemistry between lead actor and actress.
With the funniest, I'm probably gonna go with It Happened One Night. Yeah, yeah, that might be a shock, but I like the premise,
Mhm.
and it was it's a funny setup, and then with the good acting and the good jokes throughout it, I think that one was the funniest. Best uh, back and forth uh, was Thin Man.
Mm.
Yeah, best
The
back
minute,
and forth.
yeah, the minute I asked that, the minute I realized where you're going, it's like, now it's going to sound like the film's not as good. But no, this movie's amazing, ladies and gentlemen.
It
Like I said,
is. It is.
I
I
hold
yeah.
funniest film from my opinion, my perspective.
For you,
Mhm.
out of those three, same question. You just answered the funniest one was
Mhm.
Bringing Up Baby.
Mhm.
Okay, best chemistry.
There's no contest. It's Nick and Nora. It's William Powell and Myrna Loy. Because I mean, you can't really. I asked that question. It's unfair, and that's partially why I asked that question.
Okay,
Because you can't really beat those two
in the
actors,
Thin Man.
right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Now, here's something interesting to tie everything back together. This film shares at least one. I say at least one because there could be another two or three. I don't remember. But this shares at least one star with The Thin Man.
Please don't make me guess.
Oh, it's very obvious. And when I
Okay,
tell you, you'll know.
okay.
George.
Oh, very good, very good. Yeah,
It, for context, since this isn't a spoiler, the dog from The Thin Man shows up in Bringing Up Baby.
that's crazy.
Mm-hmm. I think
Yeah.
the I think the dog's actual name was Skippy. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, no,
So he was an actor dog.
mhm. He also has a role in The Awful Truth, which is another funny film that we'll get to at some point. Um,
Okay,
but no, the dog has an IMDb page. It's
that's
glorious.
great. I gotta check that out.
Mhm.
So yeah, folks at home, you can check out Skippy. We think.
Skippy. I'm pretty sure. I'm not going to lay money on it being Skippy, but I'm pretty sure it's
Yeah,
Skippy.
yeah. But you can check out his IMDb page.
Mhm. But yeah.
And see what all films he's been in.
Mhm.
Oh, that's very wild.
Mhm.
Yeah, it is obvious. Yeah. Now that you say it.
And now I know what a lot of you are going to say. I'm going to make a statement, and those of you that have watched old cinema, or at least know a thing or two, might have opinions, and that's fine. That's great. Um, but I'm the one in charge. No, no, I'm kidding, ladies and
That's right.
gentlemen.
That's right. It's your show.
Um, like I know everybody talks about, oh, Katharine Hepburn and Spencer Tracy. If you hear Katharine Hepburn paired with an actor, or talked about being paired with an actor, it's Spencer Tracy. They were in 9 films together. It's all but confirmed that they were having some sort of weird relationship affair thing during.
Okay.
It's very strange. I've seen a couple Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn films, and there's actually a couple in that box set I gave you
Okay.
that I might foist upon you. I don't know. I'm not fond of Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn, their chemistry.
Oh,
Um,
interesting. Okay.
like in my opinion, again, I know people are going to have differing opinions, and
It's
you
all
know,
right.
I much prefer out of the 2 films I've seen them in together, 3 films I've seen them in together. I much prefer Katharine Hepburn and Cary Grant's chemistry.
Okay.
Something very magical in the way they play off each other, even if it's
Gotcha.
just her being a ditz and him being very, very just at his wits' end.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, I'll have to watch a few of both for me to have a concise, not concise, but a thought out opinion on that. We'll see if we butt heads on that one.
Right?
But yeah, with a lot of these comedies, and I haven't seen a lot of these comedies, but the comedies that I have watched, the chemistry between the 2 main characters is part of what makes it so funny.
Mhm.
Why do you think that's so important to these films?
Because this, hang on, let me grab my soapbox.
Yeah.
Because these types of films, it's a brand of comedy called screwball comedy, which is mostly focused on like wacky romances or
Okay.
that sort of thing. A lot of people will say it's not a screwball comedy if it's not a romance. Again, I have opinions. We're not here to discuss that. But um, so a lot of the times, like with most of those screwball comedies being romances, you have to have good chemistry between the lead actor and actress, or else it's just gonna tank.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you know, and back then especially, you didn't have um what modern film can I throw stones at today? No, like back then you didn't have flashy effects and like
Okay.
big budget blah to take people's attention away from the fact that maybe the lead actor and actress are a little wooden. Um, you know, the age of the spectacle film wouldn't really be a thing until like the 50s with like Cleopatra and that sort of thing. Um,
Yeah.
Not throwing stones at Cleopatra. That's just the example I thought of.
Yeah.
So with a lot of that, you had to have good chemistry. You had to have like, and since most of screwball comedies are dialogue based, you had to have 2 people who were
Mm.
very good at talking fast and being able to bounce off each other. Because screwball comedy, it's basically a set of intertwining stairs. It's every like you have 2 people down here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody makes a statement, and then the other person has to either match them or go above, and it just
Ah.
becomes this little ladder sort of thing. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I have hands. You don't usually see them in the reviews.
But he's got them.
Uh,
Surprised?
um, but I have a friend who always says when I get excited, the hands start going. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, but if that answers your question, if not, I'll talk
No.
in
It.
circles more. And so,
No. I think you used those stairs just then. You took the escalator right to our destination there. But no, that's interesting because like a modern day analogy that came into my mind, and it's random, but like rap battles.
Hmm.
I don't watch rap battles, but I know of rap battles, and like the way they'll say something and then the other person will say
Don't lie
something.
to the audience, Zach.
Yeah, I'm not big into rap battles. I'm not.
Sorry.
I've seen B Rabbit do his thing before.
Sorry. Continue. I just
Yeah. It's just,
I saw an opportunity and swung for it.
and you went for it. You went for it. Yeah. No, I respect that. All right. But yeah, it's the back and forth. I love that in real life when a lot of times a bunch of guys are gathered around and you're cutting each other down as friends.
Mhm.
And then, somebody says something and then somebody says something way better.
Mhm.
Or matches. And it's just like, yeah, that's great.
Mhm.
And you're absolutely right. You see that in these, as you call them, screwball comedies. The someone says something, it's funny,
Mhm.
and then the response is either equally as funny or better. And that comes down to really good writing as well.
I had this thought the other day, and this time I will be swinging at something modern because I have to, because it otherwise my point makes no sense.
Swing away.
Like screwball comedies, like what you were saying, and like what I said, what makes the fact that like it's not one person saying anything, hold for joke.
Yeah.
Okay, thing continues. Each thing has to build. It's not like, say, a Marvel film
Mm-hmm.
where it's less about witty dialogue and more about somebody saying something funny. Scene grinds to a halt so the audience can laugh.
Yeah.
Laughter achieved. Scene goes forward.
Yeah.
Um,
There's definitely some of the Marvel movies that fall short in their ability to convey comedy.
right. So, but like with this, it's like you said, everything has to build on top of each other. If, at one point one of the actors can't deliver a line, the entire scene comes to pieces, falls apart.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost
Yeah.
kind of like what you said, the rap battles, or what you were. It's very much it's a test of skill.
Yeah. 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 That it's so we've mentioned this about other comedies that we've talked about, that it comes down to the great writing and then the actor's ability to execute those lines in a way that uh, is skillful.
Mhm.
I mean, just flat out, like you said, skillful. Because with comedy, with comedy, timing is crucial. Because sometimes in movies, like things that should be funny, like I've watched movies and I've thought to myself, that line should have been funny,
Mhm.
but it wasn't at all.
Right.
It's like the concept, the words that were spoken, it was all funny in theory, but when put to screen with the way it was delivered, it was like, missed opportunity. With the
And
screwball comedies, you don't have that option. Or it's a disaster. And I haven't seen a screwball comedy that's a disaster. I'm guessing there's plenty out there.
I've been racking my brain for the past 10 minutes going, can I think of an example of screwball comedy that failed at this?
Yeah.
And so far, I'm not. And that is not, ladies and gentlemen, because screwball comedies are perfect. That is because my brain is fuzzy and just
Well, maybe we'll come across a bad comedy.
Oh,
We can look at that.
I've got one film that I've got lined up for a Christmas release. If I can get a hold of a DVD copy, I don't particularly like,
Okay.
but I thought she
Okay.
did. But
That
that's
sounds
for later. Uh,
intriguing. Yeah.
but like talking about the back and forth,
Yeah.
that's one thing that I think is intrinsic to this film,
Mm-hmm.
and why I say it's a really funny film, probably one of the funniest, and a perfect example of a screwball comedy. You kind of get this like it happened one night, but I think it's a little better here.
Yeah.
It's not just the dialogue that's back and forth. Everything in the movie kind of has this yo-yo to
Mm.
it. Because on one hand, you have, free-spirited, out of her mind Katharine Hepburn, and on the
Right.
other hand, you have, staid, scholarly, you know, Cary Grant, and the entire time they're just kind of pushing and pulling at each other.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. That is very different from It Happened One Night.
Mhm.
Is the chemistry's different. And with you putting it that way, it's because it's such a pendulum of like the scenes go in a pendulum,
Mhm.
their dialogue goes in a pendulum, and their back and forth, yeah, of how they are as characters.
Because like the dress scene,
Yeah,
she's trying to go walk out the door and hasn't realized it, but he's very much aware. Like the
right.
entire thing, even like it's a back and forth between the two of them as he
Yeah,
tries to
yeah,
stop her and she kind of snaps back at him. Up until she
yeah.
realizes, and Katharine
The
Hepburn could do just one another funny thing about this film. Like dialogue's hilarious, but sometimes just some of the noises the actors make.
uh-huh.
I know that's a weird thing to point out,
Yeah.
but like just again, when she's realized about the dress and stuff, she's backing up into the pillar.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, they give a very visceral response as if it was happening in real life.
Right. Or his shriek of surprise when he finds the spoiler in the
Uh-huh.
bathroom. And just the opening the door and the
Yes, yes, yes. The spoiler alert noise he makes.
yes.
Yeah, yeah. And there's actually quite a few of those.
Hmm.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought about that.
Now, here is where I unveil the most shocking part of the episode. This movie flopped in theaters.
It did. It did
Yeah,
bad.
it did bad. Katharine Hepburn, at this point in time, and partially because of the reception of this film, was released in a list in a magazine of box office poison.
Hold on. Not the
Yes.
movie.
No,
She
no,
was
no, no. They both flopped,
right, but you're saying that she was.
considered box office poison.
Man, that really shows you that hindsight is 2020.
And then, that sort of lasted until, and she'd already won like an Oscar at this point,
That's
like,
crazy.
like 1932.
So she was kind of considered a has been, I
Hmm.
guess.
And then a little movie came out in 1940 called The Philadelphia Story. 180'd her rep. But I think that's a fun because to me, like I said, this movie's hilarious. It is downright just take the wind out of you funny. But to people of 1938, it was not.
Wow, that's weird.
Hmm. Another funny story. So the guy who directed this was a man named Howard Hawks.
Okay.
Very famous film director, but right off the top of my head, I could not tell you anything else he directed. Um, Such is the case of A Fuzzy Brain. Um,
The old fuzzy brain. Yeah.
but apparently, when she first came on set, she and the director butted heads a little.
Mm-hmm.
And at one point, she kind of walked up to Howard Hawks and goes, well, I have friends on this set. Basically, you can't order me around. Yeah, I have friends. And so Howard Hawks goes, you do? Uh huh. He looks up at the light, at the man up above them who's working on one of like the lights. He goes, "Hey, who would you drop this on?" And the light guy goes, you better, get out of the way, Mr. Hawks." And he
Oh
turns
man,
and looks at her, and she apparently fell in line for the rest of the film.
that is savage. That is hilarious, man. This is part of what love what you're bringing is all these backstories. People are always the same. She thought she could use her star power, and he was like,
Yeah.
Man, that's funny.
Mm-hmm.
What would you prep people? What would you say to prep people for their first time watching it without giving spoilers? What should they be looking for?
The movie takes a direct left turn at about the end of the first act, and you will not be ready for it. And just hang on tight because it's hilarious.
Nice. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's I did not rate. I've been rating the movies as we've been going along. I didn't rate the best days of our lives. That's
Best years of our lives.
Best years.
I think we rated it by the fact we talked about it for an hour and a half.
Yeah, I was gonna say kind of spoke for itself on where I would rate it. Yeah, but with this one, I would give it an 8 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
Great movie, recommend it. Funny. Yeah, need to check it out. Does the left turn that he's talking about, as well as some of the what we've just referred to as either the dress scene or when they're in a jail area.
Mm-hmm.
It's worth watching.
You know me, just I like pointing out things in a movie or things in a movie that didn't make sense so people cannot accuse me of being biased. And if I had to give one criticism of this film,
yeah,
the ending, like the very last few lines, I'm trying to figure out how to say things without spoiling it. When he finally gives in.
Yeah.
That to me felt like that came out of left field, and it didn't feel earned, which is why I've taken to just watching that as like, oh, this is where he eventually just gave into the madness. Realized if he didn't, she would eventually end up killing him by inaction. So
No, I agree. Actually, the whole scene that you said was the first one that you saw.
Mm-hmm.
That whole scene, it kind of felt like the whole scene was out of left field.
Mm-hmm.
I get that what she had found was important, but like the dialogue was like going this direction, and then it was like, oh, never mind.
Yeah, like I said, I almost wonder,
I agree with you, man.
I almost wonder, and I haven't read this anywhere. I almost wonder if they got to the end of the film and we forgot to, write in the thing.
Yeah.
Quick, type it up.
Write in the thing.
Because I mean, to me,
wrap it up.
My one complaint, and I really like doing that, finding at least one complaint with a film. That would be my one complaint. That last little bit of dialogue comes out of complete left field, does not feel earned, kind of flies in the face of his character and everything that he's gone through in the film. But like I said, I like viewing it as he finally just cracked.
Yeah,
It was all
yeah.
finally too much for him, and he just gave in to the madness.
And that's something with comedies that like these comedies like these. Yeah, I need to clarify when they have good comedy, good timing, good writing, and then something like that happens.
Mhm.
It's like that's part of the comedy.
Hmm.
Like you said, you view it as it just oh he caved. However you view it,
Hmm.
okay, it's screwball.
Yeah.
So even though yeah, I was like, what? Why? How? Um, I was like, well, it. I guess it kind of fits with the rest of the movie. What? Why? How? That's very much a theme of the movie. Like,
Hmm.
what is going on? How did this happen? And why would they choose that to do that
Hmm.
or to say that?
All right. Well, again, I think we've said everything we're going to say about this film. Unless you can think of something, this is, like I said, not going to be another hour and 30 minutes. We are not
Ah,
going to dissect the film.
right.
It's fun, but it's not really necessary here or possible.
Yeah, it was necessary with the film we did our
Mhm.
last episode, but yeah, yeah, I'm I feel like we've promoted it. I'm excited to hear what folks think about it.
And so for next week,
Yeah.
we are going to do another screwball comedy,
Okay, good.
My Man Godfrey.
My Man Godfrey. Okay, never heard of it.
And I believe you with a quote from the film.
All right.
Godfrey loves me. He put me in the shower. If you're not
Okay.
getting any context, none
Okay.
of you are.
I'm in the same boat with
Yeah.
listeners here. This is just Ellis leaving us high and dry like that. All right.
Mhm.
I'll see what it means when I see.
And as I always say, all I have is movies and time. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.